We're fine. We're fine. Don't worry about it so much, Johnny. We're fine.
We'll do it
We're
live.
fine. We're here. We'll do it live. Ugh.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Saturday. It's me. It's Johnny Million. We're dealing with it's been a big week. It's been a big, crazy week. We've got a lot to cover with the advance of the Ukrainians when Philip joins us in the second hour. But let me just start off by saying, emotionally, Johnny Million, how are you, my dear friend? And how was your week emotionally?
I'm doing pretty darn good.
Me too. You know, I got this like pinched nerve in my neck, which is giving me a new respect for the phrase pain in the neck. You know, that used to be a big statement in, like, you know, people used to say that. I could see how they came to that. Like, pain in the neck it's a pretty bad thing. That said, it's healing fine, and I'm making progress. It's nice. But you know, and I have to say, it has affected my sleep a little bit. And a couple of times I found myself when I get up in the morning and I'm making coffee for my dear one, as I often do. I get summer coffee every morning.
You mean Chud?
No. She I feed with Chip. This is all part of a big process. 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whenever they get me up, I feed the cats. Yeah. And then I go back to bed, or try. Often try is the phrase, because it doesn't really work out that way, because Maddie, the other one, walks across my body, and she's a nut stomper. And so I fear to go to sleep. And then if I do manage, I get up whenever Summer's about to get up, or whenever her alarm's set or whatever, I'll go down a couple minutes before and fix her a cup of coffee and bring it up to her before I start my day or do my thing, because I'm that kind of a guy. And and I'll have to admit that a couple of times this thing hurt so bad, I was a grumbly old man in the kitchen, like you know what I mean, where you're like, oh, you
How Vickery's trying to help fund your pain in the neck. He's going to be away for a couple of weeks, so he went crazy. So did Lisa Mia Moore.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Bless you. Thank you very much. Nice. So I've had that kind of an emotional week. You know, overall pretty good. I mean, we had Ultimate Jam Night on Tuesday, was an Aerosmith salute, and I did among other songs Fine Fine, which it's a great song. It's super fun to do, and it's exactly why Steven Tyler had to postpone his tour, because there's no guitar solo, and he just sings nonstop. It's like Young Lust. I swear to God, the man's trying to kill himself. So,
I love Young Lust, too. Well,
it's a great song.
The 1-2 punch at the beginning of
my God, a pump. Yes, it's incredible. But it's also difficult to sing that without giving yourself a break, and it's no wonder that he's, throwing his throat out. So, but we did it, and it was super fun. And I had a long night drive back, and then just a myriad of things, which probably contributed to, lengthening the healing process.
Some sparklers were saying that you looked pretty tired one of these days. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Wednesday, maybe?
Well, I mean, I arrived Wednesday. I rolled in at 5 a.m., slept for 2 hours, got up and did the show. So, yeah, you could say that. Did 2 shows that day. Yeah. Probably should have called the day out, but I couldn't. Well, no, I actually called it. I made it only a 1-hour show.
One, yeah.
I called the afternoon show because I was just blasted. And I had my uncle is in the hospital, and they were moving him home, and blah blah blah. So we had a big thing that was happening right as the show would have started, and I was like, all this together, I need to take a mulligan on this one. So big, lots of stuff going on this week, lots, right? And not just my twitchiness, but nowhere near the emotional fraying that is happening in the Republican Party right now. Because I don't know if you know this, one of my favorite characters, along with Ty Cobb and the Kraken and stuff in these Trump cases, right, the back and forth, is an FBI agent who was one of the liaisons to Twitter, a guy named Elvis Chan, who was in charge. Yeah, who was in charge of asking Twitter to take down certain posts and to, and telling them that certain posts were, not real Americans. They were, fake Russian accounts or what have you. And that's true. Lisa Miyamura, thank you so much. That was his gig, right? And they've been after him. He's right up there with the election workers in Georgia and other people like that. They have such an attachment to Elvis Chan. So Elvis Chan was scheduled to speak to the House committee on why did we lose the election? We're such nice guys. And apparently he showed up with his lawyers, plural, and the Capitol Police were nearly called because, according to Jim Jordan, he had a personal lawyer and an FBI lawyer representing him. And according to Jim Jordan, that's not fair. That's not fair. You can have one lawyer or the other, but you can't have both, which is no rule anywhere ever. No one has ever said that. That doesn't exist that's not a thing. Yeah. You can have the lawyer from your company / employer and your personal lawyer there when you're answering questions under oath. Even if you're just clarifying, even if you're just worried that they're going to try and get you into trap you into lying under oath. So they threaten. He comes in. I just love this. Days after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced, this from Washington Post, announced an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, tensions escalated when Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee and the Justice Department, which is the subject of various committee investigations, between them, a top GOP House investigator threatened to call Capitol Police to remove an FBI lawyer from a House office building Friday morning because he was unhappy that a senior FBI agent who had appeared for a closed-door interview with the committee was accompanied by both a personal lawyer and an FBI lawyer. Republicans have alleged that the agent, Elvis Chan, was involved in the Justice Department effort to censor conservative voices on social media. Which, by the way, effort, I love how they're using the word effort now. I got news for you. You either censor or you do not. Either the government has power to make an organization take your words down or they do not. Yeah. And in some cases, they do. Now, I don't know why the Republicans are pretending to be free speech absolutists, because I don't think, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm assuming that they don't want child pornography posted on Twitter, say. So you do not have absolute free speech in any of these situations. And these private organizations have the right to have terms of service because they have to sell advertising space, and the content of their sites is more predicated on how much advertising space they can sell than on your freedom to say whatever the hell you want. You cannot start your own Stormfront Nazi Twitter feed because it makes it a little hard for them to make their social media site a sales pitch to Bed Bath & Beyond. It would seem, don't you think, Johnny Million? Don't you think that the priority-wise in a profit-making endeavor would be that you don't get to just roll in here and use our free site that we let you use, that we only can fund through advertising and other fees and stuff like that? If you just don't post swastikas and you with a thumbs up as your, in your banner.
You click a little checkbox on a user
you do.
agreement that says I might be a turd.
That's right. And oh my God, did I do that? Oh, I'm so in violation right now. So Larry Berger, who's the personal lawyer representing Chan, said the committee insisted Chan could be accompanied by either an FBI lawyer or his personal lawyer, but not both. Berger, a lawyer who has long represented federal agents, said the demand was unusual and not a common practice of congressional committees. It's also nonsense. It's just silliness. I don't understand why they even thought this is they make this arbitrary distinction about this guy, and all of a sudden you can't do this. Committee did not back down. At one point, a person on the committee suggested they would summon the Capitol Police to remove the FBI lawyer from the Rayburn building where the interview was to take place. Berger said Chan was at all times ready, willing, and able to participate in the scheduled voluntary interview. Voluntary. Again, you volunteer and you can bring whoever you want I mean, first of all, they can't make you appear without representation, one would think, at all, right? They can't just remove, like, sorry, you can't have a lawyer. That's just not how we do things anymore. Much less go, I have a team of lawyers, and I have 2 of them. One represents my interests, what I can say in terms of FBI policy, and the other one's my personal lawyer because you guys seem to be attacking me personally about stuff. It seems to make sense. Anyways, FBI spokesperson said in a statement that Chan was, quote, denied the right to have his chosen legal counsel accompanying him, and then House committee staff told his FBI lawyer to, quote, leave the premises. This is a significant departure from normal procedures and an unnecessary escalation of the committee's treatment of FBI officials. The FBI employee remains willing to take part in voluntary interview with appropriate legal representation. So obviously they left. I gotta say, emails reviewed by the Post showed the committee staff informed Berger on Thursday evening that Chan would only be allowed one lawyer during the interview. Berger responded by indicating that he would accompany Chan to the session the email exchange shows. Meanwhile, the committee also tangled with the Justice Department this week as Republicans pressed for interviews for mid-level officials who've been involved in the criminal investigation of Biden's son Hunter. We'll get to that in a minute. But we got to take a break. When we come back, though, the emotions ran high. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Lauren Boebert apparently has learned her lesson. She's turned over a new leaf. She's still gonna be a relatively bigoted member of the Freedom Caucasians, but she promises that when she goes cans out to a theater with her date, she won't vape into the face of a pregnant woman anymore, unless she really needs to, I guess. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now with 100% more Johnny Million. Republicans don't know how tape works. That's all I've decided. They just don't know how recording works.
Like when things are recorded, that they can be played back. And
yes, and that people can see or hear them. Yeah. I don't... and by the way, the only reason I said cans out is because the surveillance footage of them being escorted out of the theater, she's doing the whole like drunk pull your top up thing.
Yeah.
You know that move, ladies. You know it, men. You know it. We love it. We like seeing it. We don't know how to deal with it. It's incredible. Sometimes it's an unfortunate camera angle for everyone but her. Has she promised not to grope her date's private parts? No, I don't think so. I gotta say, you know how we have like the non-apology apologies, like Will Smith's recorded apology?
60 seconds.
Thank you. Where he does that apology and then he does like a slavery movie, like it's a get out of jail free card for being a complete like, dude, you attacked another black person. Why do you think that's an exit strategy? What? Anyways, she has a statement like that. She uses a great word. I'm, right up there with the apologies of like, I'm sorry if anyone was offended. That's not sorry for being offensive. That's, I'm sorry you're a wuss is what that is. It's lame. It's a crap apology. She has one of those statements in it. Do you have the article? Can you see it, Johnny?
For the Lauren Boebert one?
Yeah, it's in the Notion. I sent it to you.
Yes.
It's in there. Take a peek. See if you can see it. It's in the first paragraph.
Right.
Thank you. See if you can see it. It's in the first paragraph. Jesus. Fucking hell. All right.
Due to budget and time constraints, all the creativity has been removed from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide bumpers. Now welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
Hi. So I was just sharing this article from the Daily Beast with Lauren Boebert, where she actually spoke to the Daily Beast, which I think that's how bad it is. They asked her for a comment and she actually responded. There's not a person walking the face of this planet that hasn't had a moment of weakness and fallen short, and I think people will get that, Boebert told the Daily Beast. Now, if you don't know, Boebert and her new man was they were at a they went to see Beetlejuice the musical, and she was vaping during the show, and they asked her to stop, and she didn't, and then they kicked her out. They kicked her and her date out, and she was like, initially was that kind of thing, like they kicked me out because they don't like me because politics and Hollywood. Beetlejuice has it in for me or whatever. She said, but officially she made a statement. She was not vaping. She did not vape. Period. End of. Oh, there's surveillance footage that shows her vaping.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I love this. I love this. We were talking during the break about the non-apology apology, which is when people say, "I'm sorry if anyone was offended," instead of apologizing for being offensive. It drives me crazy. Will Smith did that. A bunch of people do that all the time. It's a very Republican thing, actually, to do that. You know. Here's another. Here's another. So she says, "I was absolutely not vaping. I was not vaping. This is an attack on my character," and blah blah blah. Surveillance footage comes out, and her statement was, "It's clear now that was not accurate." Accurate? Accurate? Accurate is, I was vaping, but there was nothing in it. And I said that was the point that I was making, is that I didn't think any smoke was coming out, and there was a little bit, but it wasn't like I said. And my point is that it wasn't really like I wasn't billowing like I normally do, or blah, 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 whatever. Clearly, it's not that it wasn't accurate. She was lying.
Yeah.
And I love her excuse for why she doesn't recall vaping. Whether it was the excitement of seeing a much anticipated production or the natural anxiety of being in a new environment, I genuinely did not recall vaping that evening when I discussed the night's events with my campaign team while confirming my enthusiasm for the musical, that she was kicked out of, by the way.
Yeah.
In a subsequent text message, the Daily Beast Boebert said she hoped people would understand her mistake. There's not a person walking the face of the planet that hasn't had a moment of weakness and fallen short. I think people will get that. I'll show strength through humility moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay. I buy it. I buy it. Sure, why not? Writing in a statement, she never intended to mislead anyone. She added, "We know we will have to work to earn your trust back, and it may not happen overnight, but we will do it." First of all, who's we? You don't become
Who
royal.
trusted her?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Just over 500 people more than would have trusted the guy who would have done an actual job.
Yeah.
Which she's going to lose next time, by the way. This is ironically, this is the thing that's ultimately going to bring her down. Also, Trump does this. When he's riding high, it's I, me, I. When he gets in trouble, it's we, it's you, we. They're only going after me because of you. She's doing the exact same thing. These are not apologies. And for the record, if I ever need to apologize for something, and it's bound to happen, I don't know what, but I suppose you don't know until you do it if you don't mean to do it, right? If it's intentional, I don't know why I would apologize. You go, yeah, of course that was awful. I meant to do that. Right? I guess that's the other alternative. But if I ever do, you will not hear me going, "I'm sorry if anyone was hurt by what I said." I will say, "I'm sorry I was hurtful in what I said." It's not on you. It's not your problem. It's not. It's the pregnant woman that she was vaping into the back of her head. It's not on her. She doesn't have she has no part in this. And Will Smith did this in his apology as well. It's kind of this layover, like, if he ever wants to talk about this, my door's wide open. Like, talk about it. You hit him. End of story. Apologize and leave the dude alone forever. And if he does want to do that, you don't get to ask or assert or leave it as an optional behavior. You just don't. Oy. Yes, Jimmy Swaggart, yeah, used to go on rants about pornography, and then pornography, and then he he did a naked fire drill, like naked Chinese fire drill was what it was. He was like, he had a naked woman in his car. Remember, that's how he got busted. Because he was driving around with a naked woman in his car, and it was like, oh, this was so exciting, I'm Jimmy Swaggart. And she got out and ran around the car and got back in, and then he got busted and blah, blah, blah.
Is that
and
Miracle Man?
In the song Miracle Man? Yes, that's the same guy, yeah. And he goes, I have sinned against you. All right. He meant Jesus, not the people of his congregation. Dude, you didn't sin against me. You sinned, period. Your sin has nothing to do with me. And the same thing is like, Boebert. She's sitting dead center, middle of the aisle, good seats, and she's doing this stuff. So getting her out is like, it's interrupting the show. She wasn't sitting on an aisle or in a box or in the back. Like, it's just everything about this was just so self-involved. And after Boebert's ejected from the live production, a spokesperson played down the claim she'd engaged in bad behavior in the theater, saying that she was guilty only of singing along, laughing, and enjoying herself.
Mm-hmm. How many shows have you been kicked out of, Hal?
None. I was once tear gassed at a corn show, but I don't think that's the same thing.
That does not count. It's really hard to have a surgical strike of tear gas.
That's true. I was part of a larger group of people. Yeah, exactly. She goes, so a woman who said she was seated behind the congresswoman at the musical told the Denver Post she had asked Boebert to stop vaping because she is pregnant, but the response she got was a curt no. Classy till the end. So that's our beloved Lauren Boebert. She's going to learn her lesson, though, guys. I don't know why you're worried. It's not like other people are turning on Trump right now that have had his back for a while. Namely Jenna Ellis, who is one of his co-defendants, who is on her podcast recently in the last 48 hours, said, I simply cannot support him for elected office again. Why I have chosen to distance is because of that frankly malignant narcissistic tendency to simply say that he's never done anything wrong. Oh boy. That's one of your co-defendants. Yeah. Let's see, what could be better? She was speaking on, she's got a show on American Family Radio, which is an evangelical station, which is hilarious. I'm guessing that this is the opening salvo that to inform him essentially that she is not going to be siding with him, that she's going to try and get a deal if there is one to be had. And she would be stupid not to. Because doing the same amount of time that Rudy Giuliani is doing after he already farted COVID on you.
That was her.
Yeah, that was her. He farted COVID onto her, gave her COVID that way. I'm just going to say a mistake. I'm just saying, as far as your life path goes, I would say this guy would throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. 18 of these people, I mean, obviously Rudy won't. 17 of these people who are now left should just turn on him immediately.
I think I saw an Onion headline that said that Rudy Giuliani wants to change a venue for his trial to be the Four Seasons landscaping.
Well, that in and of itself, you recall one of my favorite details about Four Seasons landscaping and that gathering. Never mind the fact that they were like, this isn't the Four Seasons. Never mind. Pretend we meant to do it. Is that the first person he called up after he made a statement, the very first person, was a convicted sex offender who constantly runs for office in New Jersey, who had shown his genitals to a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. He wasn't the 10th person in a field of people vetted by other people. He was the first man that Rudy Giuliani asked to come to the mic and share his issues with the election. That literally, there were worse things than having it at a landscaping company between a porn shop and a crematorium. That would be one of them. That Rudy's key number one witness was a convicted sex offender, a pedophile. All right. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. The hits just keep coming. One of our dear friends.
Everybody in the chat says my volume is low, and I know that I'm talking too loud. So.
Oh, right. Hold on. I'll bring it up. We'll be back right after this.
Haha. Volume. How do you know my volume's low? Because you can hear me?
Uh-huh. Say something, Johnny.
Something, Johnny.
All right, that works. That's good.
Okay.
People are seeing the Russell Brand article, too. Hold on. They seen the Russell Brand article? It's in the Notion.
Don't say it. Don't say Notion.
No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, isn't that adorable? He of course is. It's a big conspiracy to bring him down, obviously. But I would like to say for the record that women who are drunk or on drugs cannot give their consent.
What?
Yeah. If they gave you consent before they were drinking, let's get drunk and screw. Remember that song from the 70s? Oh yeah. Beautiful. Maybe so. That's not the case here. And one of the victims, his agency and his PR department has dropped him. They've scrubbed him from their website. That's not a good sign.
Oh, and he compared his situation to the criticism Joe Rogan faced for trying to push ivermectin as a COVID cure. Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. Newspaper said one woman claimed raped her against a wall in his Los Angeles home, and she was treated at a rape crisis center on the same day.
Thank you. Oh, at least Andrew Tate's on his side. He'll be okay.
Uh-huh. Second woman alleges Brand assaulted her when she was just 16 and he was 31. Again, 16-year-olds can't consent. Sorry.
They cannot consent.
When I listened to Christine 16 when I was a kid, I was 11. She was an older woman.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
You know, I guess the standard operating procedure these days is that if you're called out on bad behavior or you're called out for anything that you do, what you do is just invoke the deep state. Just invoke the Illuminati. It's the system that's coming after me. I'm not culpable. I'm not responsible. This isn't a day like any other in the history of humankind where human beings do things and things are done to them and there's some comeuppance to them after the fact in some cases. No, we live in a day and age where if you're known at all, if you're political at all, if you're in any of these situations, all you got to do is if anybody comes after you for stuff you've actually done, like Donald Trump saying he had the right to keep classified documents that weren't classified, but they're declassified now, but they were still declassified at the time. And he had the right to do it under the Presidential Records Act, which gave him more right to take things.
Why does he keep going on shows and repeating that?
Because Tom Fitton told it to him, and Tom Fitton has muscles and wears an uncomfortable amount of rouge, yeah. I'm just saying it, what was the line?
Can't get muscles very quickly, but I bet I could find some rouge around.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was that line in, I want to say it was in Flowers in the Attic. Whores use rouge, ladies pinch. Right? So somebody should tell Tom that. Tom, ladies pinch. Anyways, so Russell Brand is being accused of criminal sexual assault in a new story in the Daily Beast. And we have our go-arounds on my show with Russell as he's grown his sort of right-wing apology channel where he basically helps it helps push what I think, the big lie was the election was stolen and rigged and all that kind of stuff. But there's a bigger lie even than that. The gargantuan lie is I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
That one.
That's how Fox News gets all of its information out there. Is
Oh,
they
yeah.
ask a question that becomes a headline.
Well, and again, they're not just asking questions. They're stating a bunch of things as fact and then going, does that sound right to you? Does that sound like that should be what's happening? That's the question at the end, which does not magically, by some wave of a grammatical wand, turn all these statements of fact into questions after, right? So he does this a bunch. And it'll also bring on a lot of people who say, I was kicked off of Twitter, Facebook, what have you, just for asking questions about the vaccine, just for asking questions about ivermectin, just for no one was ever, I will go to the mat on this one. Feel free to at me. No one was ever kicked off for asking a question about this stuff. Some of the responses they got, those people might have gotten kicked off for giving medical advice that was wrong or lying about an anecdotal drug that won't help them. And that's against, the terms of service of the website, which needs to sell advertising. But nobody who just asks questions ever gets kicked off anything. It's idiocy. Even when those questions are sarcastic, when they're ironic. And so he predicates his entire thing on that. The deep state will come after you just for daring to ask the question, just daring to, and nothing is farther from the truth. It's cartoonish and silly and stupid, and it's one of those things like saying, like Lauren Boebert saying it wasn't completely accurate that I wasn't vaping when she was indeed vaping and blowing it near a pregnant woman who asked her to stop and she told her no. Like there's no area in this where it's about inaccuracy. It's just a flat out lie.
Yeah.
So the story from this one is, and again, the Russell Brand denies criminal sexual abuse allegations, and they're allegations. These are alleged. He says, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. Okay, real quick. He was using drugs. A lot of the people around him were using drugs. He was providing drugs to the people that he was using drugs with. Sorry, but you can't consent when you're under the influence. That's not consent. I'm sure there are varying degrees of it. I'm sure there are maintenance users who will tell you, yeah, I'm tipsy, but I know what I want. That's fine. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the hard stuff. And so the idea that there was genuine consent in all these is just flat out not true in those cases. If somebody consents like, hey, dope me up and have sex with me while I'm unconscious or while I'm out of it, I guess, hey, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum.
Could you say that again so I can isolate that?
Yeah, no, I thought you wanted me to whisper it. So, yeah. He's been dropped by his talent agency and his PR firm. Not a good look. When they start running for the hills, yeah. Now, granted, he's only done like one movie since he's been doing his show, and I don't think he's getting a lot of offers because I think he's made,
he's ruined his brand.
Right. No,
so
the irony.
Yeah.
But in this, the Times, whose reporters contributed to the investigation, said 4 women have alleged sexual assaults by Brand between 2006 and 2013. When he was young and silly, weren't we all? He's 48, by the way. So this is some in your 30s.
He's only 48.
Yeah, he's 48. Yeah, he's just under 5 years younger than us, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that he was about the same age, but I guess that makes sense.
Well, he has a funky diet and a history of stuff. It's not the years, it's the mileage, I think. The newspaper said one woman claimed that Brand had sexually assaulted her against a wall in his Los Angeles home and that she was treated at a rape crisis center that same day. That would be evidence. That would be if she went straight to a rape crisis center. And by the way, if if anyone you know or anyone around you has ever been assaulted or you're dealing with this or whatever, there's an organization called RAIN that Tori Amos has famously done great work with, rain.org. Please go to them. They're a fantastic resource. Don't be afraid. This is not the 50s. There is recourse. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when she was just 16 years old, where I would say, even if she wasn't drugged, you can't consent when you're 16 years old. She's a minor. He was 31 at the time. It is claimed that he referred to her as the child and that the relation ended after 3 months when she found him in bed with another woman. So it's like a groomed a 16-year-old for recurring thing, and she walked in on him with somebody else. And again, promiscuity is one thing. If I got to say, if an adult girlfriend of his walked in on him with another girlfriend of his, and I don't care. I honestly don't. None of my business. None of our business. Now, I don't care how people's relationships work. Only, by the way, in how they reflect on my own. This goes to that whole checkout counter magazines about people's relationships. You have no idea the details of somebody's relationship. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie being a famous couple that was always back, on the cover of these things. You can't possibly know the personal interactions and what they're going through. So to even have the illusion that you do is an absurdity. To read them and judge these people based on that kind of stuff is an absurdity. That said, if you want to read it and go, oh, there was a note from his girlfriend. He left it on the nightstand and his wife found it. And that was all right, I got a note to self. Check nightstand for notes, or don't cheat at home, or whatever your rule is. That helps you out, whatever. So he's posted a video pushing back on this. A third woman alleged that Brand assaulted her when they were working together in Los Angeles, and he threatened her with legal action if she told anyone. Fourth woman claims she was also assaulted by Brand, who she alleges was physically and emotionally abusive towards her. The comedian has strongly denied all the allegations. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company and one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive acts. But amidst the litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. Among the litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations. Is he going to nitpick these? Is that how it's going to work?
Baroque?
Yeah. Baroque. He used the word baroque. My career is baroque. My path to the future is baroque. These allegations pertain to a time when I was working in the mainstream, whatever that means. By the way, what? How in the world, when I was in newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that, almost too transparent, and I'm being transparent about it now. And to see that transparency metastasizing into something criminal, that I absolutely deny. And by the way, it's not the transparency that's metastasizing. It's women are coming forward about stuff that you either hid or threatened out of existence. And let me tell you something. One of the most reassuring cases in the world of Hollywood that's been around lately. And I always find it funny when the QAnons call me a C-lister or a D-lister or something, considering they think all the A-listers drink baby blood. I'm like, well, maybe that makes me one of the good guys. Maybe I'm just super talented. I'm enough to get up in the top 4 letters. I just wouldn't drink the baby blood. Is that maybe? Right? That should qualify. I'm not a Z-lister. Come on. I've been to the Oscars. Well, the after parties. Right? So
there are a lot of letters.
Oh yeah, there are. And to be a C-lister, from Peaks Mill to New Trier to the C-list, come on.
Easy.
Right? So the idea that they present, that somehow the A-list of Hollywood is full of these monsters. And Brand basically using that as I was in the monster class when I was doing that, but now I'm not one of those monsters anymore. I was just in a Kenneth Branagh film, but I'm not one of those, right? I was in the mainstream. That has honest to God, nothing to do with anything. Um, the other thing is, in the Danny Masterson case, if people haven't followed, he just got 30 years to life, meaning life imprisonment. In 30 years, he gets a chance at parole.
Yeah.
He violently assaulted 2 women who were unconscious at the time. There are 2 other women who have come forward after the trial. Scientology supposedly, covered it up or tried to deal with it internally, like an Amish village or Catholic priest or something like that.
Oh, just the way Scientology handles every controversy.
Right, exactly.
They just threaten to sue you into oblivion.
Mm-hmm. And Ashton Kutcher just stepped down as the head of his anti-child trafficking organization that he and Mila Kunis are like the face of, because of the letters that they wrote in support of Danny Masterson, talking about how, and there was a really weird word that they used where Ashton said he was one of the most intentional people I've ever known. Honest and intentional, which sounds like a Scientology word, but I don't know that Ashton's a Scientologist, but whatever. Anyways, look, everybody's welcome to their own unique mistake. I don't think everybody in Scientology is evil necessarily, but there's certainly some people who are like, oh, wait, I beg your pardon, what? You'll cover up anything I do? Excellent.
Yeah.
And in his case, it didn't work. Yeah, and he got 30 years to life. 30 years to life. And good. That is the penalty for someone who commits that kind of sexual assault. The only regret I have about Cosby's guilt, quite frankly, in this situation, is that they didn't bust him until he was too old to offend anymore.
Yeah.
All of his good offending years are kind of behind him. Is it important that he gets justice? Absolutely. Does it save victims going forward? No. But in the case of Danny Masterson, you could arguably say that it did. There's no reason to believe at all that he wouldn't have continued to offend if he'd have gotten away with it, right? And so...
Did you see that people are finally letting up on Topher Grace, calling him a snob for not hanging out with the cast?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Good for him. And I've worked with Mila, and I had one scene with her in Extract, and she was perfectly fine. It was basically the whole day was like me and Nick Thune jabbering. It was really fun. It was all improv, on our side of the thing. She had a couple of lines. They shot her stuff, and then basically he and I just
that was at the guitar shop?
Yeah, we just talked past the camera, like she was really there, because she wasn't. Like, she just came in for that part of it. And then, of course, I was in Dude Where's My Car with Ashton, who, for the record, was not a fan of mine during the entire production. He was, there are those, they're like backseat directors. Sometimes you have actors who are backseat directors who are always like up in the director's guild with ideas for what other people should do. Yeah, that's what that whole thing was like. And so after the fact, I'm like, all right. The other time I ran into him, and we got to go to break, just to, little behind the scenes stuff. I was doing a pilot for VH1 that they sort of ripped off and turned into this. They took one segment of it and gave it to Patrice O'Neill and made this internet show that they had where he was basically like, I love the internet kind of thing. It was based off a section of the show Pop Shot that I'd written. And we were filming. We did a pilot for it at VH1, and we shared offices with Punked. And so Ashton wasn't around all that much. He came by a couple of times, but his co-producer was on that show. The guy who was mostly there is singularly the most bitter, angry, mean-spirited human being I have ever been in a room with. Second only to Greg Gutfeld's producer on Red Eye, when he used to do Red Eye back in the day when, on Fox. The producer on that was, like brutally miserable as a human being, shockingly so. Like just gross vampire energy off this guy.
Wow.
They were like, and
all the people in Hollywood you've probably seen, that's high praise.
Right. Well, I will say there's a myriad of folks that are just lovely. Amongst them, by the way, Martin Short. One of the sweetest human beings I have ever had the pleasure of getting to know.
And Conan O'Brien doesn't seem to like him very Have you ever seen them rip Conan apart?
Oh yeah, of course.
Uh,
We got to
they're
take a break. We'll
so
talk about that
good.
during the break.
Okay.
It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We went way over. It's all this Hollywood.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Ken Paxton was acquitted.
Oh boy. Of course he was. But he's going to lose his office. So, and then he's going to get tried again. Yeah, because it was in the first 6 of the 16 charges. Okay. Because it's not a trial. It's in the legislature, right? It's like an impeachment trial.
It's an impeachment.
It's not a legal trial. So
Right.
it's a Republican legislature, of course. Yeah. Oh my God, I love Jiminy Glick and Lala Wood as a movie.
The best.
It's so good. Should we, if this is gonna keep going, should we order some box lunches or? Hush now, Lumpy. Hush now.
Did you see?
I'm the only one that's hungry. That's the game we're playing now.
Did you see him with Larry David?
Oh yes. You're one of the few Jews that's made it in Hollywood. No, that was his line for Steve Martin. You're one of the few Jews that's made it in Hollywood. Steve Martin's like, I'm not Jewish. You have that. Oh, you have that. Is it because you're like, if you were an Indian, I think you'd be a Sioux Indian because you people like to sue people and like start beating each other up. It's just so good when he's just like dumb racist. It's so good. Why is Mel Brooks always knocking the Nazis? What? Why is everybody's always saying it's time for Mel to knock the Nazis? And Mel Brooks goes, I don't know. I think they're rude. And he goes, I guess. I love that little exchange. I don't know. I think they're rude. I guess. So beautiful.
We're back in 20.
Yeah. Thank you. I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We have a lot to talk over with Philip Ittner when he joins us at the top of the next hour, not the least of which is that Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya, the Chechen forces in Ukraine, apparently is in a coma from kidney failure. He's been sick for a while, but they think he's just, this is the end. And much more. Obviously, the lines, the front lines have been moving quicker and quicker. Once they've reached the second reinforcement line, apparently there are no mines past that point, and things are moving super quick now. But in the meantime, back here in on Earth 2, there are a couple of things that are going on that are pretty fascinating. We are headed towards a potential government shutdown. I even heard James Comer this week is like, we need to pass these bills so we can just move on because we don't need to have a shutdown right now. Because he's aware that if you have a government shutdown, that includes his silly little committee.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Where's the money come from? You can't do this privately. It's not an official proceeding if it's not paid by official channels. You can't have rogue, secondary, privately financed congressional committees. That's not how it works. So all of them, they're like, you can't blame the deep state when you are the deep state. Yeah. So pretty fascinating. We'll see how that shakes out. I believe it will be a quick bluff. And they're probably going to do a CR and then work on it for a couple weeks and then punt again right after Christmas. Just going, oh, great, you're going to wreck the economy right around Christmas. Great idea, guys. And then they'll move forward on a version of the budget. God, it's just silly. It's such childish nonsense and a waste of time. That said, the Trump's legal problems are getting worse and worse. And one of the biggest things that happened this week, oh, by the way, somebody said, what's a CR? A CR is a continuing resolution, meaning you don't have to pass a new budgetary bill. You just go, the outline of spending that we have right now, we're going to keep that going for a little while. We will continue the resolution, essentially, that we created last time. So you make the budget just kind of roll forward into the next quarter. Does that make sense? Yeah, kicking the can down the road. Absolutely. So a lot of, there have been, back and forth filings with Mark Meadows trying to get his stuff moved to federal court and all these other people. But the big one this week, I think, is, and probably the one to make the most noise, is, ironically enough, I suppose, is Jack Smith filing to put a gag order on Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is trying to poison the jury pool. This is a tactic that he's used for years. And it's something he used in New York all the time, too, that you can't, if too many people know about it, they can't find a jury. The prosecutor won't even bother to pull stuff together, because if you're famous in New York and everybody knows the details of the case, your lawyers can go, have you heard about this in the news at all? And they go, yeah, I read a couple of things. Okay, you're off. They can never get a jury. Therefore, you can actually undermine the concept of a speedy trial simply by wrecking the jury pool. And that seems to be what Trump is trying to do. The idea that he's saying he can't get a fair trial because there's not a jury in the world that everybody will know the details of this before it ever comes to trial, even right now. And then he wants to punt it till 2026. Like fewer people, maybe his memory will have faded by then, but the rest of us won't. But the Jack Smith filed this week a motion to effectively government's opposed motion to ensure that extrajudicial statements do not prejudice these proceedings, which is effectively a gag order. Which is there are certain things he can talk about. He can say he's innocent, all he wants. He can say that he's going to fight vigorously, these charges are blah, blah, blah. But he can't talk about the witnesses, talk about the judge, talk about the prosecutor, talk about, people being after him, or that it's a witch hunt or any of that kind of stuff, because that's the attempt to prejudice the jury pool more than anything else. I'm being targeted is the biggest way that you do it. That's the message that he's trying to get out. Now, do I think it will help? No. Can he call Jack deranged? No. That would be part of it. What effectively you do is you can say this prosecutor, but you can't say anybody by name. You can say these people that you're talking to are full of beans, but you can't say who those people are. You can't effectively verbally dox these people in public by bringing up their name and castigating them and basically pulling an E. Jean Carroll on everyone involved. What I would like to see as a follow-up is that after this idiot is convicted of the most obvious crimes he's ever committed in his life, and that's saying a lot, that some of these folks have to sue him, E. Jean Carroll style. Like if I was Jack Smith, I'd go, look, this went well beyond him defending himself to character assassination. And it endangered my life and the lives of my family. We get death threats to this very day, and I'm suing the Trump organization for I'm suing Truth Social as the platform that allowed him a space to do this unexpurgated, and Rumble. I'm going to sue both of them out of existence because they don't insist that they use the word allegations or allegedly or any of that stuff, and they effectively use it, they just gave them a platform to attack me and attack my family and attack everybody involved. So it's a 19-page filing. It's no surprise to anybody that this came out, but effectively they're calling him out. Let's see if I can throw this up on the It's going to be the wrong. So you're not Texas, Paul. Who are you?
Who are you?
Okay. His name up there. Bink. There you go.
Hey.
Yay. So there is. I mean, it's pretty fascinating. I think that that this is going to be a regular part of the proceedings from now on. Is Donald Trump essentially trying to wreck the case? That's all. The only way he can do it. Just wreck it. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I went way over into the break. We'll be back. I promise. Okay. Philip Bittner will be joining us. He's waiting in the wings. We'll be back. Okay, bye. What was that?
I think it was a squeaky chair.
Well, yeah, you can't recreate it, I bet. Okay, hold on one second. Let me bring in Phil. And grab this in here. Click. There you go. And we bring him in, and there he is. There he is.
Yep.
Yep. Hold on one
I
second.
got the Ukraine flag behind me. Yeah, I like that Nerd Halen shirt too, Adam. All right, I'm gonna leave Phil too. This will be funny.
They're my Twitch store. I'm here. We're all right. Let's go turn this guy off, and we're good. And then Phil always lists to port, so I always gotta move him, center him a little bit. There we go. Pull this out, and then grab this guy. Whoop, there we go. Framing is always an issue. So,
There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
Now you got it.
Yeah. And then there's Johnny, and he'll be good. And then chat room. Thank you guys for your support. Patreon.com/HalSparks and all that stuff I'm supposed to be saying that I keep forgetting to say. If I sit like this, I'm totally comfortable. If I just let my head hang loosely.
People in the chat think that you're posing in front of a mirror that they can't see.
Oh, because I'm crossing my arms like this?
No, because you're doing all this.
Oh, it's because my back hurts. My neck. So I'm just literally like pressing on it. Like right there.
You got a weak back?
No, my back's fine. It's my neck right there. And that's like right there. Right there.
Come on, Hal.
It's a pinch.
You have a weak back?
I have a week off. No. What?
When did it start?
I don't know the line.
Back.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
You could say it's a back door, but I call it a smart door.
All right, well, I'm going to do everybody's favorite and eat yogurt. It's like, it's good. This is
right. Like that's yogurt. HR, he's doing it again. Yeah. No, I don't want to have to write another email. It's the same thing he does
Go
every
ahead
time.
and tell HR. I'll tickle them too.
What? I'm just. Hello. What do you mean you're going to go watch him? You sicken me.
Look here, HR. You sicken me.
Eat it with your fingers. Who do you think he is? Ron DeSantis? Okay.
That was pudding, wasn't it?
Yes, it was pudding, indeed.
I do believe I've had to inhale pudding from a pudding cup without a spoon before.
I used to eat it
I know I have.
At Nutrier, used to eat it like just lick it out of the
maybe
container.
not till the very end, and you got to get the, what does this look like? This is not good.
Yeah, not everybody has a tongue like mine where you can reach the bottom without any additional help.
Hey now.
TMI.
It's well-known fact. It's all right. Yep, there's Kadyrov's in a coma. That's official.
Who's that?
The head of the
Chechen
Chechens. Yeah, Chechen leader.
Oh boy.
Yep. He's one of the bad people. And then Russia has, Finland has banned Russian cars. Yeah, anything with a Russian license plate. Yeah, and it's like all the Baltic countries are doing it now. You can't drive in if you, in a car with Russian plates. Yeah.
We're back in 20.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago.
Thanks.
And they're pissed off about it, the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do day trading. They cross the border in St. Petersburg,
right?
Which is only like a 45-minute drive.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you if the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Philip Bittner joining us from Kiev. How are you, my good friend? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, all things considered.
Yep. They were knocking Russian names off of a military tower, statue, or memorial in Kiev a couple days ago. They were getting up there with a chisel and taking off the Soviet era Russian names off this in Kiev proper. Lots of stuff has happened. I think the biggest news for a lot of people is that Kadyrov, the head of the Chechens, one of the more awful people, this is a teddy bear looking dude with the weird semi-Amish beard going on.
Semi-Amish.
Who's in charge of some of the worst atrocities in this war. He and it's almost like he and the Wagnerites were having like a contest, like the two Japanese generals in Nanjing in World War II. Just like who can be more genocidal and awful. And now he is in a coma. And according to even their reports, Moscow doctors are currently powerless to do anything. He is in a coma with kidney failure. He's been in ill health for a while. I don't know, to what extent, they were ever trying to help him out. He's been in a coma for several days. He's taken by plane to Moscow. The doctors were unable to help. After which Kadyrov was returned to Chechnya. They've flown him down there. Now they're planning to transfer him for treatment abroad, most likely to the UAE. This is from a newspaper in Chechnya. According to them, after Moscow doctors were unable to bring Kadyrov out of his coma, they decided to entrust his treatment to foreign doctors. I wonder if they'll if when he flies back, they'll charge him for violating parole or something like that. Like they did. Like they did
with Navalny.
Navalny, right. So catch people up on a little bit of the Chechen history and Kadyrov himself, if you could, Phil.
Well, I mean, it just, the Chechens are notoriously ruthless. Kadyrov is among the Chechens considered, ruthless. He was supported. He was a warlord in Chechnya that Putin picked to be his guy to win the war in Chechnya and bring the republic back under the control of Moscow. And he did it. He did it in some pretty brutal ways. And there are a number of international investigations into his behavior. There were Russian journalists who were looking into it, and including people like Anna Politkovskaya, who lost their lives because maybe they were digging around where they shouldn't have been. There's accusations that Boris Nemtsov may have been bumped off by Chechens trying to garner favor with the Kremlin. They're just Kadyrov is a ruthless, brutal killer. He's absolutely a murderer. He would get his opponents, his political opponents, and round them up and just summarily execute them. So this is not a good guy. And then, of course, when he came here to Ukraine for the war, and he brought over his fighters, because I wouldn't consider them soldiers. They were thugs and fighters, and they came over. It's some of the atrocities that have been attributed to Russian forces come because they were Chechens. I know that the accusation that some elements in Bucha, that out in Irpin, they're just awful, brutal, cruel people. These fighters, and also not representative of Chechens. I believe there were some, very respectable and good, folks in Chechnya, but it's been brutalized, and so brutalized people tend to brutalize other people. So, if this is the last few days of Radovan Kadyrov, his life, I don't wish death on anybody, but the world will be a better place with him not in it.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's interesting if that he is going to more than likely die in a hospital with everybody trying to keep him alive, considering how he killed men, women, and children during his time in Ukraine in the most brutal ways, and
or his own people did it to his own people too.
Right. Yes, and inside Chechnya as well. So I wonder how he will be spoken of after the fact too, depending on the power structure.
Well, yeah, a lot of that's going to rely on what happens in Moscow.
Right.
I don't think I even with if somehow Putin manages to survive this disastrous idea to go to war in Ukraine, even if somehow he stays in the Kremlin, I can't see anybody really rehabilitating Kadyrov's reputation.
No,
everybody knew he was a thug. I mean, he's just just awful,
he's a monster.
Awful person.
Yeah, he's grotesque.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So on another side of the news, and by the way, Johnny Million's going to be farming questions for you from our chat room at infotainmentwars.com and at twitch.tv/HalSparks, and of course on Facebook at the Hal Sparks page, which you can sign up for.
I've been working on a vlog today, so I haven't really been on top of today's news. I took a cursory look before.
Well, I'm sure you're aware of.
I am not.
Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of. I mean, a lot of times it's bigger questions in regard to the stuff that we normally deal with. Thank you. But the fact that the Baltic states are now not allowing vehicles with Russian license plates into the country, and Estonia is going so far as to saying they will confiscate the cars that are already there, which I thought that was a big step forward past the acceptable, how they're dealing with it, because you've got a lot of Russians that fled, quite frankly, and they want to go to these countries and be safe there. Maybe they want to return to Russia someday, possibly not. They just want to seek asylum and stay there. And then you've got Russia taking advantage of that, sending in troublemakers in all these places. A lot of them have a history of Russian destabilization, not unlike what happened in Ukraine or what they were talking about in Poland or other stuff that they have tried in Moldova and other places. So it's a there's a difficult position for the EU as far as how much do we trust the Russians that are showing up in our country. If they say they want asylum, that doesn't necessarily mean they're telling the truth. And we don't want to send anybody back who legitimately fled because they're going to get killed.
Yeah. Well, and especially the Baltics have a really bad relationship with the Russians based on based on legitimate reasons. They were forced into the Soviet Union. The United States never recognized that annexation. They have clearly been messing with the politics throughout all three of the Baltic states. Estonia, in particular, has been a victim of their internet and their data attacks. There's a large Russian-speaking population in Estonia. There's large Russian-speaking population in all three of them, but Estonia in particular, and it is where you draw the line, and also, in many ways, are you playing into the Kremlin's hands? Because the narrative that the Kremlin is spreading is that this anti-Russian sentiment, and that your average Russian who happens to live in Estonia and maybe is a third-generation Estonian from Russia, they don't deserve to be forced not to speak Russian or made into second-class citizens. That plays right into the Kremlin narratives, and that is what would be the pretext for them to get involved. Of course, all the Baltic states are NATO members, so that draws problems there.
Right.
but it's tricky. It's really tricky because you don't want to give Russia the pretext to start, we've got to go in there and we've got to protect our Russian-speaking ethnic Russians who are being subjugated, and all this stuff about arbitrarily not letting our citizens cross into the border, across the border. It plays right into their mindset, and it plays into giving them an excuse to be belligerent. Having said that, there's tons of reports of Russian intelligence agents doing all sorts of stuff inside the Baltic states, trying to destabilize things.
Right.
It's really tricky, but the long and short of it is there's no love lost between Moscow and any of the Baltic states. So
right.
I don't see the Baltics backtracking on any of this. I mean, they're not big fans of Moscow.
Right. So. We got to take a break. When we come back, I know I have some more questions as well. I brought up something when we were talking last week, and I brought up over the thing about the diamond prosecutors, specifically guys who were working under Shokin when he was ousted, and only after he was ousted were they able to kind of go after his lead investigator, who was engaged in a massive bribery scheme that Shokin was not doing anything about. Like, it's so obvious on the face. And there was so much talk about in Ukraine about them at the time that it was a source of international embarrassment for them that Shokin still had a job. That's why he was voted out by the parliament, not fired by Petro Poroshenko. I want to talk a little bit about that. And of course, let folks, have questions for you when we come back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, because the it's fascinating, the timing on this, like the 2015-2016 window. There was so much. We're off the air, so there was so much rat fucking going on, both in Ukraine and here. It was all going. It was swelling up to like Trump's going to be our guy. We're going to push this kind of shit, and everybody's just off the leash. They can just do whatever. Do your worst. And so
we'll talk about it on air, but I mean, there's also, I mean, when Yanukovych was driven out of the country, one of the first things that people did was go out to his villa, and saw the just obscene amount of corruption.
Wasn't he like? Didn't they have to like
coming back in 5 seconds?
Didn't they fly him out under cover of night, and they had to bounce him through one airport, and because they downed all the flights to try and get him. And Russia provided him with a plane.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
The timeline of Ukraine reads like any other country that was knocked on its heels by a revolution or controlled by a dictatorship or anything even likened to that for years. And getting out of it is no different than when that happens. The shaky ground that Iraq was on post Saddam Hussein for a few years. And now you pretty much don't hear about Iraq very much, except from QAnon Trump supporters who think that the Iraqi dinar is set for a big explosive growth. And that's all part of Trump's trust the plan. Don't get me started. I love that. It's just so fun. But run us back real quick, if you could, Philip, because you've been in and around this place for quite some time. And in 2015-2016, which is at the heart of the allegations against Biden firing Shokin, who, by the way, was voted out by Parliament, not fired by Biden or fired by Petro Poroshenko. Petro Poroshenko just wasn't bringing it up for a vote, as he had promised to do, and then he did. And when he did, he was ousted by like a 60-40 vote. It was a big plurality, 2/3 vote kicked him out. After that happened, he had a couple of guys in his office were busted in the middle of a bribery scheme, if I'm getting the timing right. And they had a house, I want to say it was down in Odessa or somewhere down in that region. And when they broke into his house with a warrant, they found $400,000 in cash, 65 diamonds, and a Kalashnikov. And he had been engaged in bribery at the end of a gun. Now, this is a wholly different thing than like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. When there's a gun involved in a bribery thing, the threat, that gets closer to like hostage taking and the like. So when Yanukovych fled the country, didn't it take him didn't he have to do it under cover of night, and he ended up...
He did it under. I was on Maidan when he did that.
Okay.
Or I had just arrived on Maidan when the news was breaking that he had fled.
Right.
And I mean, he did it unexpectedly. He was flown to Rostov-on-Don, where he basically has been in exile ever since.
Right.
But in very similar to the diamond brokers and the guys who were, in the prosecutor's office, just rife with corruption, was what happened after Yanukovych left. And this is the reason I bring this up, is because it's indicative of the entire system that existed here, and why there was this overthrow of the system, and why Zelensky came in, and why the resistance against Russia, who were responsible for a lot of the corruption. But Yanukovych, for example, when he fled, the protesters, the guys who had overthrown him, went to his villa. It was almost like the French Revolution, where they went to Versailles and everybody saw the opulence. Well, Yanukovych had a villa outside of Kiev, outside of the capital, that was this enormous, obscene villa with like a man-made lake and a fake privateer ship, like a pirate ship that he used as a dining facility. I mean, it was obscene. It was disgusting. Gold-plated toilets and everything that you could imagine. And the reason I bring this up, and why I think it's germane to talking about the prosecutors who were found to be corrupt, was because it was absolutely endemic in Ukraine, and due in no small part to Ukrainians doing it to themselves, but also in large part because a lot of that money was flowing to Russian oligarchs in Moscow. And so a lot of the resistance to Russia is to get away from this system of corruption, because Russia is, how do I explain this? It isn't even corruption in Russia. It's the water you swim in. It's the air that you breathe.
Right.
It's even considered illegal.
Which is how Ukraine used to run, and that's what they're trying to get away from.
That's right. That's exactly it, is that they don't want to live that way, because in Russia, it is very much a might makes right. And if I have power, I can stay out of the courts. I can avoid prosecution.
No wonder Trump likes him.
It is perfect for a guy like Trump. It's no rules, no law, except for laws that you can use to punish your opponents. And that's why Ukraine rose up in 2014 with the Maidan, which then eventually cascaded into the current war we're in, because they don't want to live like the Russians do. And the Russians they'll give a wink and a nod to the idea of law, but they don't believe in it in practice.
Yeah.
So, the Ukrainians don't want to live like that, and it's because of the corruption we see with Yanukovych, with Shoigu or Shoikin. All the bad actors, all the bad players here are gonna get their comeuppance. There's corruption investigations all over the place currently right now. Many of the ones who were back, of course, those who were backed by Moscow have fled long ago, and probably taken a good chunk of capital from Ukraine.
Right.
But that's a lot about. That's a lot of what this war is about, is rejecting the Russian system of corruption.
Right. Let's grab a question before we get too far into this next segment. Johnny, who we have first?
Right on, yeah. As usual, Ed's 3D Tech is leading the charge. How many Russian boats got broken this week in and around Crimea, and how many Russian S-400s went boom?
By my count, it was 3 vessels of the Black Sea Fleet, a submarine, a landing vehicle, which there are only 3 of in the Black Sea, which is could be used in an amphibious assault. Both of those incidents where there were sea drones that were used and they were in dry dock. The submarine important because submarines are really a problem for Ukrainians right now because they can go under the water, obviously, so they aren't you're not able to target them with the anti-ship missile systems that the Ukrainians have, and that's been a real pain for the Ukrainians because there's nothing they can do about it. Subs just get up to right beneath the surface and shoot off a missile, and next thing you know, in Kiev we're getting air raid sirens. So that's a big deal to get a sub. But it's also important to recognize that it's also important to take out these amphibious landing vehicles because while it's a long shot and probably not realistic to expect an amphibious landing, better to have those things out of commission.
Yep.
And then finally, there was a missile cruiser that apparently was taken out the day after, but that missile cruiser was actually at sea. It's my understanding.
Yeah.
Now, as for the S-400 missiles, the air defense system that was taken out, that is a very expensive system. That is a system that would be used to protect Sevastopol and other locations within Crimea. And the way that the Ukrainians took it out was, crafty as usual. The Ukrainians have a way of really circumventing Russian defenses and finding a way to attack Russian, assets.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, what they did, and this is there's probably more that needs to be investigated. And eventually, when operational security isn't so important, we'll hear the story of this. But apparently, they took out the radar detection systems with drones. They overwhelmed them with drones. And then once they had no radar to defend this S-400, that's when they sent in the Shadow Strike UK provided cruise missile, and that took it out. And that's it's like 1.2 billion or something crazy like that. It's a really expensive, really expensive system, and they took it out. So
there's two big stories. There's two big stories about I think it was the Finnish who have supplied the Ukrainians with these like little observer drones that are like this big, that you could fly dozens of them in coordination over an area, and they can provide a 3D topographical map of an area. It's so futuristic that we're getting so very close in this is so much the future, where teams of strike forces will come in and just get in as far as they can and chuck these things into the air, and they will fly out like bugs into an area, and they're just too small to shoot or affect, and they're all sending signal back. That's already happening because of the Finnish.
And they're also communicating. They're all communicating with one another. I know there's a system that DARPA has in the United States. DARPA has been working on not only these mini drones like you're talking about with the Finns, because I'm sure the Finns are right up there at the cusp of this kind of technology. But DARPA has a system where not only do they talk to the operator, but they're independently talking to one another to fly in a swarm that, as you say, allows you to do a topographical map of whatever it is you're about to
everybody
attack.
that's there. Anything moving is seen,
drones,
all that stuff.
Man. Drones,
and for the record, I would like to dedicate this next story to our dear friend Rob Glenn, who's often in our chat, and Ed's 3D Tech, because this is one of my favorite stories that came up. The U.S. is handing over 3D printers for spare parts printing to Ukraine. William LaPlante, Undersecretary for Defense Acquisition and Sustainment, announced that they're going to give these machines. They have already released a few of them, but they're going to give more of them to the Ukrainians. They can just drive these things close and put them in a building near the front lines and print parts for tanks and artillery guns and gun parts, all kinds of stuff. They print metal. There are two formats in this. One is additive manufacturing. That's where like plastic 3D printing, where they layer on top of layer, and then there's subtractive, which is where you're removing materials. It's what famously Jay Leno has in his garage, that he can make parts for cars that are just obsolete. They no longer exist. So if he can find one from a piece from one of the classic cars he has, scan it, he can just make a brand new one, print it from scratch, and that's what they're doing. So this is they're showing one of these, the concept lasers, industrial 3D printer that they're showing. I don't know if it's these exact models. I don't think it is actually. It's a better one. These are more for like prototyping. But they're using the plastic 3D printers. These are for their bombs. These you can see these the kind that they drop from the drones. Also the modification drone parts. And then, of course, they are making stuff that is out of carbon fiber and out of metal. The metal pieces being the crucial repair parts for all this. So that Ed's 3D Tech, I see you, and I share your nerdiness in that regard. Back to where we were. Let's grab actually, let's take a break. We'll grab another question on the other side. We're already a minute over. There's so much to talk about today. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, with Philip Ittner. Follow him on the X platform, Ittner Philip, 1 L in Philip, 2 T's in Ittner, Johnny Million. It's Johnny Million on twitch.tv. One second. Like the 3D printing of stuff is going to be the other game changer. You're going to see like these 3D printer trucks that use materials. They're going to be able to grind plastic and metal from blown up vehicles. They like have like an ore printer basically that just shreds this metal and turns it into a fine powder that they can heat and put together with a laser and build these kind of parts that I was showing. That's the future of war. And then you get to the point where robots can repair themselves. We're about, we used to be 30 years from that. And thanks to AI, we're 10 years away.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Removing the human element.
Mm-hmm.
It's, no more body bags coming back. It's going to be.
Well, that's the drone strike criticism of Obama, and, and ultimately Trump ignored that or whatever. But the idea is like, Obama raised the number of drone strikes. So that's because he didn't want to send, if you don't have to send troops in, you're going to send in a drone. I don't care who you are. If you believe what you have to do can be done by a drone, you're going to send a drone in to do it, because drones don't come home in flag draped coffins. They don't do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember when I was bureau chief for Voice of America in Islamabad, I interviewed the then ambassador. And one of the topics we discussed was the fact that the Pakistanis who were up in the frontier and they were getting hit by drone strikes were, incensed about it, because there was nothing they could do. At least when there was a helicopter or a plane, they could make your opponent suffer and send a body back. Not realistic, because the Pakistanis didn't have that capacity, but at least they thought they had it in their mind that there was something that they could do.
Yeah, you could kill one of their soldiers. Right.
But when it's a drone, it's this like, well, there's absolutely nothing we can do. And even if we shoot this thing down, we're not hurting the Americans. We're just, it's a price tag for them. And it's that psychological effect.
Yeah.
On
and it's just going to get more of that and more of that.
And then at the end of the day, it's whose industry is going to win.
That's right.
Basically will come down to
robotics, engineering, and AI are the future of all conflicts. Gone is the nuclear age. The problem is there's a great movie called Hardware.
Back in 15.
Thank you. You ever seen Hardware? It's a relatively low budget Terminator-esque kind of movie about a woman who's trapped in her apartment in a radiation zone, and her boyfriend brings back a busted up robot. She likes to weld things together. Well, it's a self-healing robot.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. We have so many questions. Johnny Million, who do we have next for Philip?
I've got a quick follow-up from the boat thing. That I don't normally, I try to keep everything chronological, but Diane Russell asked, is it true that Ukraine took out a Russian boat with a jet ski?
There have been these
Yes.
Yeah, these tales
I'll
of
accept
like
kinda as an answer.
waters.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, kinda. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
guess they
yeah.
were dropping off munitions. Yeah, it looks like it was a jet ski or a water ski.
Yeah.
That
It
they
was a jet
used to
ski.
deliver
They
some
had
of
like
these
10 of
systems.
these guys on jet skis, basically
Yeah.
as support for the drone thing to get it past a certain point, I think, was what it was. It was like to keep it from being shot at because it can't return fire or target. You have guys right out with it and basically distract, basically like human shields to some degree because they all look the same. You can't tell the difference between the aquatic drone and a guy on a jet ski from the size and the output. So they would just all kind of verve out and then blow away. And then by the time they tracked which one was not a jet ski, which one was actually the thing, it's too late. It's already on them. I mean, that's
They're
ballsy.
smart folks, these
It's
Ukrainians.
gutsy. Yeah.
Yeah, crafty.
Yeah. Very water world. Yeah. Yes. If only Dennis Hopper were alive to see it. Yeah. Yeah. So Barry
So I've
Bostwick
got
and
another
Megaforce.
question here from Connie Kelly. How did the meeting between Putin and, or how the meeting between Putin and Kim is playing? I'm going to try this again. Please ask Philip how the meeting between Putin and Kim is playing, especially since Putin is saying Ukraine is not as far in the Eins as Zelensky is saying. Maybe lines.
Inside, over the lines, past the lines. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They're not worried about the DPRK. They're not worried about soldiers from the DPRK showing up here. If anything, actually, the Ukrainians are kind of scoffing at it because if your only ally is, Kim Jong-un, then you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. The DPRK has sent workers to Russia for years. Slave labor has come to Russia, since forever. Since the Korean War, basically, the DPRK will send slave labor to Russia. So this kind of relationship between Pyongyang and Moscow is nothing new. But the Ukrainians are not scared of North Korean soldiers. They're not scared of the increased amount of artillery, perhaps, that they're going to get from the DPRK. There was reports this week that in 2025, it's estimated that U.S. output of 155 millimeter shells is going to be somewhere like 100,000 a month. The West is coming on is coming online with its production. Russia is already at a war footing, so they have an advantage, and they have an and if they get more from the DPRK, they're getting more artillery support. But ultimately, none of this is going to change the outcome of this war. The Ukrainians are going to win this war. They're going to win it because they're going to survive, and there will be a country called Ukraine. The question is still territory, but the DPRK is not going to be the deciding factor, and Ukrainians know it.
Right. Yeah, let's grab another question, Johnny, if we can.
Sure thing. I've got one from Nick Rich here. Has Phil had any problems with Starlink lately?
No, but I haven't had to use it. It's in my closet right now. It's just collecting dust. I am supporting a unit, a territorial unit that I gifted a Starlink to, and I'm paying for their monthly. It's like $75 or something a month. And they are making great use of it. I don't know the details because I don't need to know those details, for operational security purposes. But they're happy with it. Starlink has been a really great asset for command and control, for logistics, even for certain, military applications like drones and stuff like that. Despite Elon Musk's resistance to that. Obviously, the news about what happened in 2022 with a potential naval attack in Sevastopol that was was canceled because of the geo fencing that Starlink does. But the Starlink system has been a great asset for the Ukrainians. So while mine is just sitting there in my closet collecting dust because I am able to access, a pretty solid internet here, touch wood, uh, I haven't had to use my Starlink that much. So, but generally the people like having the Starlink. The Ukrainian forces like having them. This thing about the Sevastopol attack is not good. But aside from that, Starlink's been wonderful.
Cool.
Well, the only problem is that it's wonderful until it isn't. And the reports that Elon Musk has willy-nilly decided to turn it off at certain points because he didn't want certain efforts done over others sounds like he had, and he's been speaking directly to Vladimir Putin. Let's be abundantly clear. This is a man who gets most of the aluminum from his that he uses in Teslas comes from Russia. It's his primary supplier. That the supply of those things goes to China. Yeah, but the aluminum, that's his primary source, and it goes to China from there. Without that aluminum, there are no Teslas in China, which is his biggest market right now, even with all the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah,
so
but it's my understanding the Pentagon has taken over some of the operations of
yes.
They have some of the satellites have been now basically taken over by the Pentagon. So I don't think we're going to see a repeat of 2022. But still, regardless, Musk's one of the big problems with Musk and his support or his whatever, not support, is what he's done, his activities in Ukraine, is that he's mercurial and you can't rely on him. So one day he'll wake up and say, you can use the drones however you like, or the Starlink to use surveillance drones, and then the next day he's geofencing stuff off. It's just it's too much. It's too much unpredictability for him to be wielding so much influence in this war. So the relationship isn't great between Ukraine and Musk right now, despite appreciating the Starlink, as I said, which they do. But his unpredictability and his and his coziness to Putin, he's not exactly loved,
right?
And that's me being polite.
Yeah, well, I think there was a story in the Daily Beast today about how basically the Ukrainians are just en masse crap talking Elon Musk as a human being, which is to them, I would say, welcome to the club. That said, let's grab another one before we get to the break, Johnny. We got a couple minutes.
Sure. This is from Andrea, our lovely mod.
Excellent.
What about President Zelensky coming to Washington?
Yeah, just announced yesterday he's going to come over. He'll go to Washington. He'll also attend the UN General Assembly. So great. Yeah, he's not at the beginning of the war, he was in a bunker. So now he's able to travel.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I'm sure he will have a meeting in the White House, and he'll make the rounds, and he'll garner more support for Ukraine. So that's what he should be doing. And I think everybody is for it.
Yeah, they're gonna apparently word is that they're not gonna announce ATACMS or any other kind of bigger stuff while they're there together, that the meeting with Zelensky and Biden will be a conversational support for Ukraine and generalized talking points as an ongoing support without tying it directly to he came hat in hand asking for a specific weapon system or a specific response, which I think is very smart, because you don't want to put a target from the pro-Putin crowd in the Freedom Caucasians, for example, on a particular weapons package and have them, go after some of the funding in the appropriations around, the deal, the government funding deal that happens at the end of the month, end of October.
I'm sure they'll make some agreements behind closed doors. But actually, I think the UNGA is going to be more productive for Zelensky, because you'll have all the world's leaders in one place in New York.
Yes, that's the General Assembly for people who don't know. Yeah.
The UN General Assembly.
Where Donald Trump has a building right across the street, where Yi Jianming, the head of CEFC, the company that supposedly had a deal with Hunter Biden that's all terrible, for $3 million, had a $5 million condo in Trump's tower there looking at the UN while he had a NGO at the UN. Weird. I don't know why I felt like bringing that up. It's just kind of funny. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More of your questions at infotainmentwars.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We're getting there. 56,000 plus on YouTube already. We're growing. Just slow and steady wins the race. We'll be back. Brad saying how the maggots are already saying they'll shut down the government to stop funding for Ukraine. They don't have the votes to do it. They do not have the votes. They can't. Like, there are too many people that that will pass the CR, and McCarthy himself knows it has to pass. No amount of threats from MTG or Matt Gaetz or anything is going to change that. It's silly because every businessman in this country is screaming at McCarthy and that crowd right now about shutting down the government. Because anybody look at all the government contracts that keep Tesla afloat. I rest my case.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Garbage
in the slightest. No.
Nope.
Ukraine is going to get support from the United States.
Coming back
well into
Thank you.
Yeah, well into 2025.
Yep. Did you hear about Brand, by the way?
I am happy, you are
Yes.
happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yeah. This is the one you gave me.
Madness.
Phil.
Good old Patron. Well, I don't know where else you would find a Patron.
I don't
think
I
they
don't
sell
either.
them at Walmart.
This is my Patron.
They should.
Yes, the only Patron I've ever owned. I think there's a drug or a drink called Patron, if I'm not mistaken. There's a difference, but isn't there? But it's a different spelling.
Yeah, tequila.
Right.
Yeah, no tequila.
But here he is. He's right
good old
nearby.
Patron.
That's good.
Great dog.
Let's grab a couple more questions, then we'll finish off with a kind of a wrap up of that little historical stuff about Shokin and the Diamond Prosecutors, real quick. Johnny, what do we got?
Sure, I've got a question from Howie Z. What is Ukraine doing to get ready for winter? I suggested changing over to their snow tires.
Well, they're far more prepared for this winter than they were last.
Yep.
They're getting more replacement kit for if the Russians do go back to their attempt to deprive Ukraine of power, electricity, water, heating, all that kind of stuff. They're anticipating what the Russians did last year, which was a miserable failure. Now, thankfully, we had a pretty mild winter. We'll see what happens with this winter. But
there's no shortage of gas this time.
Yeah,
that's the one thing.
Well,
everybody's
that's true.
Yeah,
that's
everybody's
true.
already
That's also
converted.
true.
Not that kind, Johnny. Different kind. By the way,
and as far as the military goes, there will probably have to be a period of time where they're going to decrease operations when things transition between seasons and it gets muddy. But once the ground freezes up again, there's no reason why the Ukrainians can't continue military operations in the winter. And I suspect they will.
Yeah. And Johnny, I just want to congratulate you. I know your little sound effect machine is broken, so I appreciate you bringing your A game and filling in that gap on, doing it au natural. It's
Yeah,
good.
sure. Well, I've got the probiotics working for me.
Is that what it is? I would have thought it would call that
Antibiotics? Wait,
Right.
no.
You and Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's what I have a friend who got sick and he was taking probiotics and they put him on antibiotics and he exploded. There you go. Thanks, Johnny. Let's grab another question if we have one, and then yeah.
Sure, I've got one from Water and After. They only know of Phil from this show. He mentioned that he's covered other wars. Can you ask him what other wars he's covered and possibly which media he was working for at the time?
Yeah, let's. Some people are new to the magic of Philip Bittner.
Well,
so yeah, bring them up to speed.
I worked for CBS News for approximately 15 to 20 years. When I worked for them, I was assistant bureau chief in Baghdad. So I covered the Iraq War. I was in Afghanistan also for CBS about a week after 9/11. So I covered the war in Afghanistan. I was Voice of America bureau chief for a while in Islamabad and in Kabul. So saw that I argue that actually the frontier is a conflict zone. It's a proper war zone.
Yep.
The frontier between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I covered Libya, Syria, Georgia in 2008, where I saw the Russians in action for the first time and was less than impressed. Where else have I? What other wars have I covered?
Well, Trump did lose fair and square, I
East.
will say, in Georgia. Just say he wanted those extra votes, but he wasn't able to find them, and the Russians just were not able to help him.
Okay. Yeah, different Georgia.
Yeah.
Both
true,
Middle East conflict, West Bank, Gaza. What else have I done? Korea is still actively a war zone. Not a lot of
technically, that war has never. There's never been a peace deal. That is still
never been a peace
technically
deal.
a hot war, right?
That's right. And then now, of course, Ukraine. I'm sure I'm missing some others. Anyhow,
I think those are good credentials.
And we're for CBS, Voice of America, Sky News. I did a stint for Fox News. I was thankfully fired. It was a great day. Who else have I worked for? CNN. I was a gun for hire. I was a freelance journalist for many years, and I worked for a lot of their organizations. So,
John.
Hopefully, though, this is my last war.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We want you to be able to do a travel show where you just sample food for the rest of
food and
your life.
Yeah.
Please, Johnny and I have covered a couple of wars in our time. The great Reeb Seretsky disagreements of 1985-86, and obviously the warring Michelles in junior year. Obviously, I still got
that is so inside baseball.
So inside, and I still got scars from them. I still got scars from the Michelle Wars, from Michelle Squared. Love you both. I'm just saying, you know who you are. So, real quick, do we have another question, Johnny? Before I get into my own little okay, grab this one. Go for it, and then
Joseph Winnie wants to know if Philip still has Malcolm Nance's truck.
No, I don't. The International Legion came and got it.
Okay.
Before my neighbors got upset with me for taking up a parking space.
All right, and I just want one more quick one from Dawn. Just wanted to know what Phil thinks about the rumors of Putin's health.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having this constantly. This thing about Putin's health. I don't know. I mean, he has been ill. We know he has battled cancer. Supposedly it's in remission, but who knows? And look, I don't think we can anticipate disease being the thing that takes Putin out, unless it's kind of he suddenly had a heart attack, and he's
and
no
an allergy to gravity, right?
Yeah, exactly, some sort of thing like that. But I wouldn't anticipate a long medical thing for Putin's demise. You're going to wake up one morning and he's going to be gone,
right?
Because there's only one way that Putin is going, and that is out of the Kremlin. There's no way he survives in office. This is too devastating a loss for Russia.
Mm-hmm.
That's his fault.
Agreed. Right. So a couple things that I wanted to bring up. One of the things that was that the Wagnerites had been offering Africans contracts to fight in Ukraine and that kind of stuff, almost swapping them out, you know. And the other area that they were allegedly going to get some of these folks from was from Cuba. And there have been two primary scandals around Cuba. That one and the idea that the Chinese are building a base there, which, by the way, has effectively been halted and was always like a listening post kind of thing. But even still, there's nothing to get, but whatever. Either way, it's hard to figure out whether or not the Cubans said, don't go fight for Russia and Ukraine to their own citizens, or if China asked for that, which I find particularly fascinating. That is this part of their courting China, ironically getting what the U.S. would want out of it, in theory, but courting China to do it. The other thing is that increasingly you're seeing fewer mercenaries in the war zone. And this might just be because Wagner's being decimated, or they've just moved to other places, or guys are just refusing to take the contract to go in there. And they're like, I'll go to Africa and kill some pregnant women because I got a history of that, sure. But I'm not going back into Ukraine. That's a meat grinder.
Well, and empowering mercenary groups is proven to be very dangerous in Moscow. And I don't think they want to go down that road. I mean, even today I saw a report out of, I want to say it was Irkutsk, or somewhere in the far east in Siberia, where there was an incident where a private military company, PMC, got can I say pissy? Got pissy about some asset out there with railroads or some such thing, and they got in an armed conflict. If you enable mercenaries as unstable or as unstable as Russia is right now, and you start giving support to mercenary groups, it's just going to further destabilize Russia. So it's bad idea. Bad idea. And they know it. They learned their lesson. In the last couple of minutes here, I want to make so I did a vlog. I have been sitting on material and I've been agonizing over how to present it because it's a very serious topic, my next vlog, and I hope to have it out in the next couple of hours. And it's basically about mental health and how Ukrainians are dealing with the wounds of war that you don't see, the internal wounds, the emotional trauma that Ukrainians are going through. And I'm presenting it now. It'll be coming out in the next couple of hours. I hope people will go to my vlog and watch it because it's one I think it's particularly important to understand that it's not just people who are driven from their homes or had their homes blown up or have lost loved ones or are injured. There's emotional trauma, and every Ukrainian, because we're constantly under threat and we're constantly living with the idea that there's somebody out there who's going to try and kill you simply for being Ukrainian. And so I did a whole vlog about this call-in center where people are fielding issues for mental health. And I urge everybody to go and watch it because there's this growing argument that I see on those who would want us to remove support from Ukraine, where they see people out at cafes or walking the streets as if nothing's happening. Do not mistake that for wellness. These people are desperately trying to keep normalcy because there's such a strain on every Ukrainian's mental health. And it's not just the wounds that you can see, it's the internal wounds that matter. So go watch it. Thank you.
And absolutely to be expected. By the way, the Ukrainians are responsible for gathering and producing grain that is keeping tens of millions of people alive right now. Without them, those people will die of starvation. And they're doing it against this blockade by the Russians and not being part of the grain deal and having to go around this. And every day that takes them doing their normal job of producing, selling, and shipping and arranging for all this stuff, in spite of the fact that they're in a war zone. They're doing hats off to them for doing whatever they have to do to deal. Appreciate it. Philip Bittner, by the way, everybody check out his vlog. It'll be out in a little bit. Follow It's Johnny Million on twitch.tv. I recommend it. Yep, and YouTube. Yay. Oh, nice. Like it. And don't forget, if you're on Facebook, it's the Hal Sparks page. Follow, subscribe, become a member, all that kind of stuff. And, of course, patreon.com/Hal Sparks makes the show happen. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Yeah,
Hey.
sorry for the shameless plug there, but it's a good topic, and I putting it out. I'm really agonized
Yeah.
over it because I want to do right by these people. I don't want to be flippant about what it is they're doing because they're
Yeah.
oh man,
Yeah,
they got
man.
a tough job. These
Of
guys get
course.
calls. They get like thousands of calls from people who are literally considering suicide because there's no stability here. There's no way of planning your future. There's no way
Right.
of, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And that uncertainty and the danger and the risk that every single Ukrainian is living under, it's just so taxing. So
Yeah.
I really had to put it out because I got really pissed off with my Odessa vlog because I saw these people going, well, look at these people. They're out,
Yeah, it's
going
trollers.
to they're going to, well, I know, but
Yep.
the problem is that mentality,
People see it
is
and they read it. Right.
people see it and they read it, and it provides ammunition for the people who say that all this money is coming to Ukraine, and I see them going out to bars and restaurants as if nothing's going on. Not all damage is visible.
Right.
There's stuff internal, and I don't
Also,
know
like,
a single Ukrainian who's not been damaged by
do
this.
we want to prop up their entire economy, or do you want everyone else who's not fighting in the war to go to work, do their thing, and try to like raise their kids and get them to school and all that stuff that human beings have to do in spite of this? Like, it's such a stupid argument. I feel
It
the
really is.
rage.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. But thank you guys both. I got to run.
All right.
I got a family
See you on
FaceTime
Wednesday.
about my uncle.
Yeah.
So love you guys. I will see you next
dear.
week.
All right,
Yeah,
send
yeah.
in your uncle love.
right.
Say hi to your mom
Thanks.
for me.
Yeah.
Thanks. I will.
All
will.
the best to the
Okay.
Sparks clan.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Talk to you on Wednesday.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Yes, I
See you,
insist.
Johnny.
Okay. Bye. So, and thank you guys. I'm gonna bail out fairly quickly and go rest my neck as well. I'm healing. Things will be better. Getting better all the time. It's getting better all the time. Better, better, better. Week from Tuesday will be the day after my birthday. A week from this Monday is my birthday. By the way, Christmas will be on a Monday this year because it's the same day as my birthday every year. Just in case that helps. Tuesday, the Ultimate Jam, we're going to be doing Power Trip Festival, which is in Indio. So it's AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, and Tool. So we're doing songs from all of those. So I'm picking my songs and all that kind of stuff. And I will be well healed by that time. So fear not. And I appreciate you guys. We're also Summer and I are going to DC this weekend for that fundraiser I'm doing for Carl Frisch. So I will be doing my show on Thursday and Friday from there. Or just Friday. I have to look it up. Maybe just Friday. But anyways, I'll let you guys know. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I'm going to go, do my thing. That's just what I do. Oh, my lights went out. Weird.